Good morning, everyone. On behalf of IKC and Principal of Jesus and Mary College, I extend a very warm welcome to all our participants and esteemed speaker, Professor Dinesh Singh, for a discussion on a topic that is poignant for all of us, and more so for our students as to the shape our life and careers will take after COVID-19. I'm looking forward to hearing the pragmatic views of our speaker on the transition an individual will have to undergo in order to adapt to newer social proclivities during and after the pandemic. I would now like to request Dr. Sunita Kaistha, teacher in charge of Commerce Department of JSL Mary College, to welcome once again and introduce Professor Dinesh Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Alka Marwa, for the warm welcome. Could I request people to please switch off the microphone? It's a little difficult. Professor Dinesh Singh, Sister Rosalie, our principal, friends and viewers on YouTube and Facebook, and of course Google Meets where we are. I would like to take you all back a few years actually, when I had to go to meet the director of South Campus with Dr. Rekha Dayal. And I had to meet, I had never seen the director, nor had I ever met him. And it was with a little scare that I went in. Director South Campus is a big thing. So once we were ushered in, and I cannot forget this meeting actually, because it is so vividly etched in my mind. I was so pleasantly surprised. Professor Dinesh Singh gets up, warmly welcomes us, and makes us very comfortable, saying, "Please have a cup of tea and we'll talk." My surprise knew no bounds. We had an excellent meeting, and over that cup of tea, Professor Singh promised that he'll revert back. To my delight and surprise, not only did Professor Singh revert, but we got a positive response. This was the first of many meetings, sir, which I've had with you. But what it showed to me was that besides being Director, Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, you have always been a warm and wonderful human being first. I've always been in awe of you, sir. And after that, we continued inviting you to our college, for which you have a special place. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you, Professor Dinesh Singh, Padma Shri, which he received in 2014. I feel literally dwarfed, both figuratively and literally. He's a brilliant mathematician, the youngest professor appointed in the Department of Mathematics, son of illustrious parents, and a painter by hobby. Professor Dinesh Singh has donned many hats. Besides holding all important portfolios, he's done a number of institutions, held a lot of portfolios in Delhi University. Presently, he is also a member of the governing body of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He has been always very appreciative of our college and has helped us smoothing a number of edges whenever required. The last meeting I had with Professor Singh was when he graciously consented to be the chief guest for the valedictory session of the first international conference held by the Department of Commerce, Jesus and Mary College. And he came despite having to fly out that very evening. Thank you, sir. I'm truly indebted to you personally for that. I have had the honor of listening to Professor Dinesh Singh many times, and let me assure you that each time, Professor Dinesh Singh makes us, the audience, take back something new. Presently, sir is the Chancellor of KR Mangalam University, where innovation and research are the hallmarks of the university. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. It is my pleasant duty also to introduce my moderator for this session, Dr. Dinesh Adlakha. Actually, for the teachers of the university, needs no introduction, especially those who have ever had any administrative issues at the University of Delhi. For the Department of Commerce, Dinesh is an honored co-opted member. He is definitely a friend in need for those who need it. Most of us are aware that Dr. Adlakha is an associate professor in Spanish, but not many know that he is an honors graduate in mathematics from Delhi University and has also completed his law from the Faculty of Law, Delhi University. Dinesh has held extremely important posts in the fight for teachers' rights, and that includes being a member of the Academic Council, Secretary of DUTA, and FedCuta. Furthermore, he is a very active Freemason involved in a large number of charitable works. He is an avid reader and a passionate trekker. Thank you, Dinesh, and most welcome. Before I invite our Sister Rosalie to say a few words, I would like to thank and Dr. Alka Marwa, Dr. Amita Motwani for their initiative in making IQAC, on actually insisting on IQAC and Department of Commerce joining hands. Dr. Rekha Dayal for to convene this webinar. Saloni Arora, who is heading the team this time for this webinar. Hiral and Shubhangi. Hiral is the Vice President of Commerce Association, and Shubhangi is President of NEEP, which is at the Training and Development Center at the Department of Commerce. Thank you all for taking this forward. Could I request Sister Rosalie to kindly address the audience? Thank you all.
A very good morning to each one of you present here, and welcome to our participants, staff, students. In a special way, our esteemed speaker for today, Professor Dinesh Singh, to this special webinar on the topic Life and Career Beyond COVID-19. Let us begin by invoking God's blessing on each one of us and on the whole world.
Let me see. Yeah,
So that
I got it. Thank you.
So that we are able to adapt to a new normal life and to live a happy and healthy life.
There is we.
We are privileged to have Professor Dinesh Singh,
Vice Chancellor हो गए ना आज? ठीक है.
I am grateful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation to share your expertise on the topic. I am sure your sharing will enlighten, motivate, and challenge us to live this new normal life after the lockdown. Dear friends, we understand the meaning of the old saying, health is wealth, all the more during this pandemic. All of us had our plans for future. When everything seems to be going well, this strange, unusual thing happened to all of us, the COVID-19 and the lockdown upsetting all our plans. We have never imagined ourselves in a lockdown situation like this for such a long time. We were not prepared for this. There is a lot of uncertainties, disappointments, anxieties about future and for survival itself. The COVID-19 has changed our life itself. Change is inevitable at all times. It may be positive or negative. We need to adapt. We need to adapt to the ever-changing needs of our society and the world. In this current challenging times, we need to explore ways and means to reset our lives to a new normal life, new ways of living a happy and healthy normal life. We need to develop new ways of coping the new situation, to look to the future with confidence. We need to reach out to people who need our support, our students in a special way, to cope with this new situation so that they will be able to use all the opportunities to make their lives beautiful and happy for themselves, for their families, and for everyone. We shall overcome with courage and caution. As we journey together through this pandemic, let us not focus a life of fear, but a life of love. Let us make connections with people. Of course, keeping in mind the safe distance. During this pandemic, let us check our attitudes. Let us appreciate the frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors, and all others for their 24/7 services to us to contain the virus and to help us to live better lives. Let us look for new opportunities to be kind and considerate. I take this opportunity to congratulate and thank our staff and students for organizing such a wonderful and meaningful, a much needed seminar today. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you, sister, for your encouraging words. I would now like to invite Mr. Dinesh Adlakha to take over the proceedings and commence today's discussion.
A very good morning to all. All those who have joined late, for them, a brief introduction of our guest today. Professor Dinesh Singh is a former Vice Chancellor of University of Delhi and is a professor of mathematics in the Department of Mathematics, Delhi University. A graduate of St. Stephen's College, Professor Singh obtained his PhD degree from Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine, London. Professor Singh is a distinguished senior fellow at Imperial College Advanced Tech Space and an adjunct professor at the University of Houston, United States. In the year 2014, the government of India, the President of India, conferred the most coveted honor of Padma Shri on Professor Dinesh Singh. Many universities have recognized his work as a mathematician by conferring doctorate honoris causa, University of Edinburgh, National University of Ireland, University of Houston, and National Institute of Technology, Kurukshetra being some of them. A painter by hobby and a Gandhian philosopher, Professor Singh presently is the Chancellor of K.R. Mangal University. It's going to be a treat, visual as well as audio, to listen to Professor Singh's views on this very burning issue, COVID-19, life and career beyond COVID-19. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Professor Singh. Professor Singh?
Sir, आपका mic off है.
Please put your mic on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Good
Yes.
morning, sir.
Okay, good.
So shall I start with the concerns of the students and faculties of Delhi University and around?
Please.
So the first and foremost concern of the teachers as well as the students is about the examination. What is going to be about this thing? Various conflicting views are coming from all quarters. Delhi government has said that there should not be any examination. All the students should be promoted to the next higher this thing. UGC guidelines have come that the examination should be held in the month of July. Whereas if we take into account the views of medical fraternity, and particularly Dr. Buleria of Department Director of AIMS, he has said that the peak is yet to come, and end June, beginning of July, maybe that feeling. So, what situation do you visualize, sir? How to go about this examination and how to cater to the concern?
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody. Sister Rosalie, Rekha ji, Alka, Anita ji, Dinesh, and my other colleagues, and possibly some students. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm happy to be able to sit with you. Let me also clarify that if you're expecting some really penetrating, wise words from me that will throw light on the whole situation, I'm not so sure. All of us are trying to understand and grasp the reality as it exists around us. So let's be a little careful about how we go about this. But there are some very positive things happening, and I think we should look at everything in the context of the positive things that are happening. So, with your permission, Dinesh, I would just like to quickly clarify something. I also heard Dr. Guleria say that the peak will happen sometime end of June, July. I most humbly differ with him, and I differ in all seriousness. I respect him. I think he's a great man. But I have a difference of opinion with him on this peak. And I'll tell you why. So, there is a very eminent Israeli scientist by the name of Isaac Ben Israel. He is the chairman of the Space Research Organization in Israel. And he's done something very interesting. He's looked at data for all the countries where the coronavirus has occurred. He looked at all the websites of all the countries where the virus is actually right now. There is some enormous disturbance right now. Would be there a technical I'm getting enormous, background hiss here. Okay, that's gone. Thank you. It's gone. Okay, very good. So, Isaac Ben Israel has looked at data for all the countries where the virus has struck. And he has discovered something common to all the countries. Essentially, whether the country observes a lockdown, whether it does not observe the lockdown, whether it treats people in social distancing only, whatever it does, whether it has a very large population or a not so large population, for all the countries, there's one thing in common about the virus. That the main effect of the virus does not last beyond 70 days. Essentially, this is not a law like the law of gravitation. So please don't look at it like the law of gravitation, where you count exactly 70 days. But essentially, the virus's main effect does not stretch beyond a period of something like 70 days. And I have been looking at the data for Dharavi. Dharavi, as you know, is a very congested slum area. There are lakhs of people living there, all huddled together in one small tenement it is common to find 8 to 10 people living together. They have common toilets. There is no question of social distancing over there. And I've been observing the data for Dharavi. You know, the first case in Dharavi happened on the 2nd of April. And I've been following it very closely on a daily basis. Let me assure you that Dharavi, which is like a good case study for all of India, the rate of infections, rate at which infections increase, is actually declining steadily for Dharavi for the last many days. Somewhere in the middle or third week of April, the rate of infections stood at about 10%. And right now, as I have checked the data, the infection rate is just a little more than 3%. Already it is declining. And don't get taken in by the media. Sometimes, I respect the media, but sometimes they play a very negative role. They tend to highlight a simple thing, one single incident, and everybody thinks there's something really bad happening here. So one day they will say Dharavi has cases. They will never tell you that the weekly average for the last 1 week has been around 30. And that's much declining. So my prediction is that by the end of May, Dharavi will be out of the virus problem. Now just think carefully. You could not have had a worse scenario than Dharavi. I mean, if you look at the city of Delhi, it's much more open. There is much more social distancing. We are much more careful. If Dharavi has had so few deaths, the number of deaths in Dharavi is really small. The number of infections is also very small. Then let's look at it carefully with a cold mind, a cool mind, that this is not a virus that is going to destroy India. It's not going to harm us like that. I would still say we must observe all the conditions of lockdown, social distancing. We should wear masks. I'm not saying you should not do that. Be careful. It's not good to get the infection. But this infection will start fading from India by the end of June. That's my prediction, and I'm basing it on data. So I beg to differ with Professor Virya, who's a very eminent scientist, but perhaps he may not have had time to look at the data very carefully. And you know, the press highlights Maharashtra also, big case, big jump, big jump. Even Maharashtra, the rate of increase of infections is declining for the last 1 week. Just 3 weeks ago, it stood at something like 20%. Right now, it's below 10%. It's something like 7 or 8%. It's really coming down. That's the first thing. There's another thing I want to tell you. And you know, because Dinesh, you are a student of commerce, so you understand the importance of data. But here's something for people's careers, your students who are listening. I want them to pay attention to this. The importance of data. And when I say they don't mean all the time some high-end deep data. Simple data analysis that is really useful. And careers are built around people who are good with simple data analysis, no matter what subject you do. So 4 scientists at Houston, at the University of Texas in Houston, I was there in January. 4 scientists, one of them is an Indian, they decided to look at all the data for all the countries that have the coronavirus. They looked at the data for 178. And you know what they found? They found that in all the countries that have a strong BCG vaccination program, the death rates are really low. And then something more interesting happened. 2 scientists from Chandigarh, they looked at all the countries that not only have a BCG vaccination program, but a BCG revaccination program. And they found that the death rates are even lower for those countries. It has become quite evident now, most scientists tend to agree that there is a strong reason that the BCG vaccine provides a fair amount of immunity to people who have had it. And do you know, India has had mandatory BCG vaccination since 1971. So significant, all those who are below the age of 50 are likely to have had BCG vaccination. I know people who are in the 80s who have had BCG vaccination. So the virus becomes much milder for people who have had BCG vaccination. Again, please don't take this as a license to go about freely hugging everyone. Please don't do that. But that is why in India, that is one of the reasons why India is coming out so much better than most countries. Most countries. Because we've had a vast BCG vaccination program, there is a strong correlation. There's something else I want you to understand. Altogether, a little more than around, I think, 2,000 people have died in India from the virus. In the last 1 month and more, in fact, 2 months. And everybody is worried. The press highlights this, so-and-so died here, so-and-so died there. Let's look at some data. So that's why I keep emphasizing all your students who are worried about careers, even if you're doing English literature, you will find that even in literature, data is very handy. And I'll come to that in a short while. You know that in India, every day, 1,500 plus people die of tuberculosis every single day. Just imagine, with the coronavirus, over a 2-month period, not even barely 2,000 people have died. Just think about this. Let me also tell you something else. I've been looking at the data in the United States. Each year, they have what is called the seasonal flu. It starts sometime in September, ends sometime in January, early February. Last year, the estimate probably up to 60,000 people died because of the seasonal flu. The year before last, the estimates are almost 80,000 people died in the US. Each year, thousands of people die of the seasonal flu in the United States. Now, just put everything into perspective and then you look at what is happening in India. And I would say we must take heart. There's one other thing. I looked at the data for all the countries where the virus has been prevalent. All. I made a hard and deep study. And I predicted that in India, the death rates will be very low. And my prediction has begun to come true. I made my prediction on the 1st of April. It is there in writing. And you will see that the death rates are low. Why is that? Because of these 3 factors. The BCG thing, the fact that we are a very young population. That's a huge factor. As data shows us across the world, even though young people tend to get infected more, it's the old people who die. And the old people also die largely because many of them have other diseases, what are called comorbidities. Somebody has heart trouble, somebody has kidney trouble, somebody may suffer from diabetes. And those are the main reasons why they tend to die. It's not that the virus comes and kills you. So India has a very young population. 70% of our people are below the age of 50, in fact 45. And about 80% are below the age of 50, 55, something like that. I don't remember the exact data. We have a very young population. That is also going to help us. And thirdly, inherently, our innate immunity in India is much stronger than many countries because we are forever being exposed to all kinds of situations around us in the environment. There is dengue fever, there is tuberculosis, there is malaria, all kinds of things. And the body is forever fighting them. Otherwise, we would all be ill. And that also builds some immunity in us. All these factors are combining to help things. So I would urge everyone here to sort of be a little more calm, to look at things with a clear and cool mind and realize that this is not a problem that is going to overwhelm this country. Just remember this. Last year in India, 150,000 people died of road accidents. Just imagine, the coronavirus in 2 months has killed about 2,000 people. The chances of an Indian dying of a road accident is much higher than dying of the coronavirus. So think about it in this perspective. Coming back to the question that Dinesh asked about the examinations and how will we cope with them. You know, we must look at life in a broader perspective. Don't look at things in a narrow window. I remember when I was a student, I was in my first year at Delhi University, we had a major student problem. It happened in the end of September, towards the end of September, and the university was shut. It reopened only in February. So you can imagine, for 3 full months, there was no teaching. And even before September, in August, there was a teachers' strike that lasted, I think, a little more than 7 or 8 days, maybe a little more. So there was a fair amount of disruption. No teaching took place. For 3 months, the entire university was shut. And yet, when I graduated from college 3 years later, I had not lost a single day. In fact, I was in my first year when the university was shut. And even then, our exams were held mostly on time. There was a slight delay. And over a 3-year period, we made up without any problems. So the first thing I want to tell you is, no first or second in college should worry at all about the schedules. Everything will even out. Yes, you may ask, when will college reopen? Will we be able to have our classes? What if our classes don't happen till October? Even if first of all, your classes will happen before October. But suppose they don't happen till October. For all first and second year students, take my word for it, you will all graduate on time. One semester examinations being delayed will not affect you in the 3-year context. So please don't let that bother you. There's one more thing I want to tell you. It isn't that we are just sitting here helpless and letting the virus come and affect us. Some of the best minds in the world are right now, even as we speak, on the verge of creating vaccines and therapies that will help us fight the virus. All kinds of ideas are being tried out. And I have come across 3 very promising ideas. And I will tell you about one right now. Israeli scientists have created monoclonal antibodies to fight the virus. That's not really like the traditional vaccine. And you can get into industrial production with monoclonal antibodies in no time. So you can produce huge amounts of this medicine, and immediately start treating people. You don't have to go through all those trials of phase 1, phase 2, so on and so forth, because it will kill the virus immediately. And I believe, and the Israelis are very careful when they make an announcement. They have made this announcement. They will come up with more details very soon, but they are not given to loose statements. They always talk with reason and purpose. And I'm very confident that this monoclonal antibody treatment will be out certainly sometime towards the end of June. And it will be given to the whole world. That's just one of the therapies. There is a vaccine from Oxford that, as I speak, is being manufactured in parallel in Oxford and even in India. And that vaccine should be out in September. There are others like that. So please remember, there are all kinds of remedies coming here, and once they're out into the market, things will start coming back to normal. So if you're thinking that you will not be able to attend class, things will not be normal beyond October, November, I don't believe that is going to happen. Things will start getting normal fairly soon. Let's get back to the problem that Dinesh asked for third-year students who are about to graduate. You know, I am not saying that you should deliberately have your exams delayed, but suppose for the sake of arguments, third-year students have to face examinations sometime in August or September. What is it that you're going to lose? Do you think that universities across the world are not going to take this into account for admissions purposes? They are already doing that. I know students who have applied to universities abroad, and all those universities are in touch with these students to tell them how they expect to take them into their systems. Very soon they will come out with clarification. So if you're looking for admissions to other institutions in India or abroad, they will take into account the whole world is affected by this. Schedules of the whole world have been affected. You shouldn't worry too much if your exams get delayed a little bit. Secondly, those who are looking to get jobs, if you think that if your exams had been held now and your results had been out, the companies would have hired you straight away. Well, the companies are also affected. The companies are aware. So this delay in your exams, the delay in your results will not be that bad for the companies. They are aware of the situation. In any case, they're not hiring too much right now. So my suggestion to you is, I'm not therefore saying that we should deliberately delay exams or delay results, but don't let it overcome you. Right now, leave it to the wiser, older people who are a little more experienced to figure out ways and means of conducting your exams. Already they are working on this, not just at the University of Delhi. I'm confident. I'm not in the know of things. I'm not connected with the exact work that is happening. But I can tell you that wisdom will prevail and they will devise ways and means. The university has seen delays in examinations, in teaching, not just when I was a student, even when I started my teaching career. In 1982, the Delhi University Teachers Association went on a prolonged strike. I think it went beyond 3 months. Again, nobody suffered. Even the third year students managed to get out on time and did what they wanted to do in life. So rest assured that there are good people here and they will work out a good solution for you. The whole world is sympathetic. But here's a piece of advice to your students, Dinesh. You know, it is important that you utilize your time while you're sitting at home in a profitable way. I would urge you to somehow enhance your qualifications, your credentials in such a way that in the coming days, those who are looking for jobs, those who are looking for that kind of experience will be immediately sought by people. And I can assure you that people who have good data skills will be in great demand in the days to come for two reasons. One, all companies, all corporations, all job-giving agencies are terribly short of people who do not have data skills. And the other advantage is that when you do data work, you can do it mostly from home, on your computer, online, and stuff like that. So here is the other advantage. And how do you enhance your data skills? So look, I've been conducting some experiments. You don't even need someone to teach you. You just need to be alert, you need to be active, and you can learn a huge amount of how to handle data. You can learn how to handle Excel and how to analyze data through Excel by all kinds of excellent videos and lessons on the web. Just 5 months ago, I picked 2 undergraduates of Delhi University studying Hindi and subjects like that. They had never handled a laptop. I gave them laptops, I gave them access to the net, I gave them a 30-minute lecture on what is Excel without really teaching them anything. I gave them introduction to YouTube. And I posed a simple problem in data analysis. And I said, I will now not give you the solution. Come back to me in 1 week by looking at all this. Tell me if you have found a solution. They came back to me in 5 days and they had found the solution and they had begun to understand how to demonstrate that through Excel. I continued this exercise. I wasn't teaching them. I'm not such a great expert on Excel. In 3 months, they reached such a marvelous level that they could produce animations and simulations on Excel for probability theory experiments. And these are students who are studying subjects like Hindi. So please understand, you can teach yourself and you can enhance your capability simply by accessing the web while you're sitting at home. And take my word for it. If you start looking at simple data, start understanding Excel, and start analyzing the data related to the corona crisis through whatever lessons you learn on the web for data handling, you will have enhanced your employability prospects a huge amount. So all in all, Dinesh, I hope this has been useful, what I've just said.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for a very lucid presentation on this. In fact, this has covered 3/4 of my question. Now, sir, another concern is about from the faculty. And post-corona, how do you visualize, how do you see the situation of teaching? Most of Delhi University teachers, very large population of Delhi University teachers are in not a very regular position. How will post-corona teaching position be vis-a-vis the regular appointments and uh, the ad hoc colleagues of ours? Their concerns are very genuine. Lots of talks of 25% online teaching, 75% classroom teaching, and again, in the same vein, I would request you to explain how is what significant differences are there in the online teaching mode and the classroom teaching mode. Which one would you prefer?
Dinesh, there is nothing like online teaching and classroom teaching. There is only teaching. It's only teaching. And I would urge all my colleagues, whether they are permanent, whether they are ad hoc, to use as many teaching aids, as many tools as they can in their interaction with students. And therefore, it would be nice for all of us to use technology as an aid to teaching. I can tell you one thing. Post the corona crisis, a trend has already begun in India and other parts of the world. Of course, many people across the world have taken to online teaching. But there's a mistake that many people are making. When they resort to online teaching, they just stand in front of the camera and they deliver a lecture like they deliver in a classroom. And that's a big mistake. If people understand the pedagogy well, and there are ways of doing it, there are all kinds of, papers, blogs, videos that tell you how to use technology. In fact, I gave a webinar some time back, which is on YouTube, called the Yoganand Guru series on unleashing the power of the web as a knowledge device. What a teacher needs to do is understand that you can never teach all the knowledge that exists in the world in a short period of time. Even if you took 1,000,000 lifetimes, you will never be able to teach it. Knowledge is infinite. So let us not get into this game of trying to teach everything ourselves. What we have to understand, whether you're using technology, whether you're in the classroom with a blackboard, that we must first and foremost teach our students to be good learners. They must learn to learn. And that is where a teacher is handy. The teacher must transform herself a little bit into a kind of mentor or a guru and do less of this blackboard teaching, less of giving notes, and more of getting the student to work on problems that they can look for on devices like the web, through the laptop, and even projects while they are at home. If you combine all this, much can happen, and then those who have mastered these kinds of pedagogies will again be in great demand. So those who are ad hoc, if they fear that they will not be, first of all, I doubt this very much, Dinesh, given the fact that the medical scientists, the best minds in the world, are working day and night. I believe therapies will be out in the market in 2-3 months. They will be out there. And so within the next 4 or 5 months, things will come down to absolute normal. That's my prediction. But what about the interim period? Those ad hocs who have begun to understand how to use these technologies, how to use the knowledge that sits around the web, and start becoming better mentors rather than just classroom teaching, because the student gets bored. If you're online and you keep talking at one end and the student is seated at the other end, he's going to get bored very soon. So you have to bring in interactivity. And I urge all your teachers, all your colleagues to practice. They must sit in classes, they must look at videos, and they will get very good ideas of how to master technology. So that's my advice.
Sir, the next question is about from the students. And many of the students have wanted to know that post-COVID, the economic situation is going to be very grim. So they should, the undergraduate student after graduating from college, they should take up the jobs or they should explore the further studies option.
You know, I keep telling students all the time, my humble advice to all students is simply this. Ask yourself carefully what is it that you want to do in life. Don't follow the herd. Don't say that because everybody else is, I'm going to take a job, I'm going to take a job. You ask yourself, what is it that you really want to do in life? Ask your heart. Listen to the drum beat within. I always call this the Antardhvani. Awaaz kya kehti hai? What is the voice doing? Sorry, there's a huge, okay, it's gone now. What I want to tell you is that let the student think carefully. If you feel that you cannot afford to study anymore and that you need a job, then of course you must look for a job. Just compare our students' situation with students, say, in the United States. Very different. In the United States, for college and university education, students generally take huge loans. And the teaching is completely gone right now. Universities are shut. And they are in debt. And they're not getting any education. And the debt is mounting. So they are in much bigger trouble than our students. So if a student can afford, they must see what they really want to do and then move in that direction, seek those kinds of qualifications and stay the course, keeping the economic situation in mind. Look for those skills that you think the world will need. So, suppose you want to be a painter. I would say you must do everything you can to be a painter. Will someone give you a job? Hardly. But remember this, you can find jobs that supplement your income while you are trying to be a painter. So I know many painters who started out simply as signboard painters. They were signboard painters while they were great artists later in life. So they earned their living as signboard painters. My humble suggestion to you is that to make a living, to support yourself, get some skills, get some data skills, get some IT skills, get some communication skills. If you acquire those skills, companies will give you immediately. They will always give you a job. Companies will need people with these skills that to come. If your students are sitting at home, why don't they teach themselves the language Python, the coding language Python? Python is a hugely powerful language. Any student who can handle Python can do many things. Even if you're studying English literature, just learn some Python and learn to do a little bit of data analysis. Let me give you an example of a waitress in New York just 2 years ago. She had a job as a waitress and she had a degree in English literature and she was making something like $30,000 a year. She took a 6-month course in data analysis and she got a job in California at more than $100,000 a year. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you love English literature, stay with it, but enhance skills. So learn some coding, learn some data, learn some communication. This is the time if you're sitting at home and companies will come to you, believe me. So that's my advice.
Sir, another very important question that many of the students and others have raised is that the banks have a very big NPA. The labor laws have been changed for 3 years. Labor is migrating from cities to villages. What is going to be the scenario of industries where, in fact, some of the industries are 100% labor intensive? So, what kind of a scenario do you foresee in near future, or in fact after post-COVID? That is what is the concern from this.
That's a good question, and that is a concern for all of us, Dinesh. We are all thinking about it. I've been looking at various economic data for a long time now. Of course, it's going to be very difficult. We're going to have all kinds of trouble. But let me tell you something. You know, in the 1930s, the United States went through, in the period of the 20s and 30s, it went through a great depression. It was unemployed, massive trouble. But then the government intervened. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, got elected as president, and he came up with what is known as the New Deal. And through government intervention, he revived the economy. So over here too, the government will have to play a major role, and I'm confident that the government is already thinking of what to do to get our industries, to get our job granting agencies, corporations, places like that, to get them going. So I'm sure that many minds, see, I'm not part of the thinking process, but I'm aware that they are thinking about it. And so I'm very confident we will go through some trouble. But after all, just think about this. If the government gives a stimulus package to medium and small industries, those are the agencies that hire large numbers of people. They will get going quickly, and the government will give them a financial aid package. The moment they get going quickly, they will have lots of jobs at that level, and I expect that the migrants will start coming back, because that is the most employing agency. The largest numbers are employed in such and medium enterprises. And I believe the government is going to focus on that. So I think the economy will get stimulated fairly fast once we understand that the virus has come under control and we don't really have to be in this lockdown mode, that social distancing will be enough. I believe the stimulus package will be announced. It will get these small industries moving. Small agencies that hire 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, they will all be helped by the government. I'm very confident of that. And that will get the economy going. Of course, we will still go through some trouble, but I expect that we'll start picking up very fast.
So another major concern that the public at large has expressed is about the utilization of the funds that the various agencies have collected in the name of COVID-19 over the last 2 months. Any light on
Well,
that?
I mean, I know of one fund, the PM Cares Fund. So our salary, yours and mine, deductions from our salary and the DA that was supposed to come to us, I think all of that has gone into that fund. I don't know if the fund has begun to be used yet. I'm guessing, this is my guess, Dinesh, that fund is going to be used for the stimulus package. This is my feeling. So they're going to use that to enhance small and medium industries, but I'm not privy to what the government is planning, so I cannot give you precise information. Besides that, I don't know of any other fund that has been at the government level. Is there?
No, not at the government level. Government level only the PM Care Fund has been collected, but various agencies have collected, and people had apprehension about that, whether those funds will be used in the right distinct direction or they will be siphoned off, as is the reputation with these funds.
Well, I would say that one should only give to those funds that are well known and will be transparent and authorized, So we shouldn't, if we have a voluntary contribution, we should always go for those funds. I'm really not aware where else they're collecting funds, so I can't comment too much. But I think the other funds, the Prime Minister's Relief Fund, the PM Cares Fund, all those funds, they will be used really to stimulate the economy. That's my guess.
Thank you very much, sir. In your intervention, you have covered almost all my questions. Now, one last that in fact, you have, during your intervention, you have equipped the teachers how to motivate the society in general, how to motivate your students as far as not spreading the negativity is concerned. In the end, what would your message be for life in general after COVID-19?
Again, Dinesh, I'm not a great or wise man. I'm, struggling with these questions myself. So I will not have any clear answers. But there's one thing that has certainly helped me in life, and I'm sure it has helped people like you and other colleagues also. one must remain anchored to a faith, whatever be your faith. Find your faith. I'm not saying it has to be religion. It could be religion, it could be God, it could be something. Stay anchored to that. That gives stability of mind and stability of purpose. Once you are anchored to something, it helps you chart your way in life. And in this time, I mean, if we stay anchored, I mean, as a mathematician, my faith resides, of course, I am a firm believer in God and God's benevolence. And I pray to God every day. And I pray not for any immediate gain, but I pray for well-being for all of us. May God grant us that strength to face this crisis. But I also stay anchored to mathematics. I'm in touch with mathematicians across the globe. We're exchanging mathematical research on a daily basis. And that also helps me see through the crisis. And one more thing, this is not the first time the world has faced anything. I mean, we have gone through all kinds of troubles. If you look at the historical accounts of the Spanish flu, that was 1,000 times worse than what this is. 1,000 times worse. It killed so many people across the world. It killed lakhs of people in India. But did the world change? No. And in today's world, we are far better situated to tackle this kind of a problem. Imagine in 1918, what kind of facilities did India have? What kind of communication did they have? They couldn't sit and talk the way you and I are talking to each other today. And yet India coped. India managed. So things will come out. We will come out of this. The thing is, let's all think constructively. Let's make ourselves better, stronger, more capable in various ways. And I keep saying this, Dinesh. This is the time for all of us to enhance our own inner capabilities, and the internet, the web, can play a huge role, not just for a webinar, not just for learning mathematics, but you will be surprised at all the good things. It is like a vast ocean that contains many things. If you remember in our mythology, when the ocean was churned, eventually the nectar of immortality, Amrit, came out of it. And if you churn this ocean of knowledge and information that exists on the web, you will come across many good things, and who knows, eventually you may also get the nectar of immortality. But many good things will come. There are bad things also. But who says you should get the bad things? The good things are enormous. They will teach you skills, they will teach you insights, they will give you philosophy. You just have to make the effort. If you're thinking that people should just sit back and good things will come, they will never happen. You have to make the effort. God only helps those who help themselves. So we need to make an effort and delve into these things. And you will find that many changes will begin to happen in your life. Much wisdom will come. And when you go out to face the world, you will be far better placed. I mean, I found it so fruitful. I also was so worried about the corona thing. But then I began to search the web. I began to look at all the data, all the information. And by the first day of April, I knew that India will be much better placed. And I was already relieved because I was worried that people were telling me millions will die in India because of corona. Nothing like that happened. And I was so ready to face the whole problem because I made this effort. It was a huge effort. I had to sit day and night to access data, to access scientific research, to figure out which is reliable, which is not reliable. But eventually, it helped me to understand that India will be much safer than other countries. So if you make these efforts, then good things will come to you.
So this webinar is being live casted at YouTube also, and we're getting lots of questions at YouTube. One such question is for me. I'll just put that question to you. Please explain something about the Kerala model of dealing with the contagious diseases. Nipah, Corona, etc. They all were tackled in Kerala, very well tackled in Kerala without needful vaccines. So they feel that it's more with the healthcare services and community spirit than these vaccines and analysis of data and all. What is your take on that?
Oh, certainly. I mean, see, vaccines play a different kind of role. So Kerala has done really good work in containing the virus. And Kerala, as far as I can tell, has much better health services organized by the state. So essentially, the state-supported health system, the state-supported health services are excellent in Kerala. And they had enormous experience handling the Nipah virus. And so they were very well prepared and they are far more professional. They began to isolate all those people who were coming from abroad. So Kerala has been very professional, and I wish other states would. So what has happened now has happened. Let's not talk about that. But for the future, states must look at the Kerala model and see how they could, implement many of the things that Kerala has done. And it's not just the Kerala model. I have noticed something, Dinesh, wherever state-supported health facilities are good, the virus has not created much trouble. Look at Germany. I looked at the data for Germany. Germany has the best state-supported, extra healthcare services per capita in the world. So what is called, the sort of the intensive care facilities per capita, Germany has better than most of the world. And you can see that Germany has organized itself very well. It did testing very early. Its facilities are available for people and it controlled the virus. That's certainly something that we need to understand. I think state intervention is very necessary for health systems. You cannot leave it only to the private sector. The second thing, all that is good. We have to have vaccines. We have to have therapies. Otherwise, this virus will keep coming back, or other viruses. From this virus, we have learned many invaluable lessons. How to be prepared, how to have your testing services ready, so that whenever something happens, your tests and your PPE, personal protection equipment, all of this now must be prepared at a much higher level so that we can face other pandemics in the future. But the most important lesson comes back to this business of therapeutics. Here, I believe it will change the nature of therapeutics in the years to come. The work that the Israelis have done, the work that the Oxford team has done, some of the use of technology in the United States to handle these things is amazing. There is a company over there called Benevolent AI. AI stands for artificial intelligence. They used data. So I keep emphasizing that those who are good at data analysis and those who are good at coding will always be in demand. So what did they do? This is an artificial intelligence company. They have huge computing power and huge power to write good codes. As soon as the virus began to spread in the US, they quickly looked at all available chemical compounds that could be used as drugs. They looked at the structure of the virus, and through artificial intelligence, they compared everything. And in 24 hours, they identified a single drug that would be likely the best way to treat the disease. And trials are on for the drug. So you see how things are working. Now in India, these are the things we need to increase. And I would urge your students to increase their skills with data analysis, with coding, and with, of course, life sciences. Those things are going to be much part of the future. That's where our energies to a large extent must go. And between vaccines and good healthcare systems, we will always be ahead of diseases like this virus. That is what Kerala did. It, even though it didn't have the vaccine, it certainly controlled the virus. But there's no guarantee for Kerala that it will not come back. And they'll have to keep fighting it. So that's why the vaccines and other therapies will be very useful.
Sir, the next question from your explanation on BCG vaccine.
Right.
If the BCG vaccine and the young population and exposure to other viruses are a reason for the low mortality in India, then why the fatality rates are so divergent? As low as 1% in some states, as low as high as 6% in some districts. And also, the data show that there are the 3 states which account for more than 70% of the new cases. How would you explain that?
So I don't have, a complete record state-wise of how the BCG vaccine has been given in different states, number one. Number two, there is no one factor that will help control this virus. You see, so it's always a combination of factors. There is also some evidence that wherever there is an incidence of malaria, the corona thing is much less, and the corona thing is much higher in India, where there is less of malaria. All these factors are being understood. But look, I mean, overall, India has had around 2,000 deaths over a 2-month period. During this state, the United States crossed the 50,000 death mark. Just think about it. I mean, there's a huge difference. So some states may have a few more deaths, but still the deaths are in absolute numbers. The deaths are really low. Look at the number of deaths in Dharavi. It's hardly anything. They have 8-9 lakh people living there. And the number of deaths is so small, trivial. So obviously there is some innate immunity, and my guess is, once again, I have no hard data for Dharavi in terms of BCG, but my guess is that in slum areas, health agencies, NGOs, they work very hard, and I'm sure that the BCG vaccine must have been given to all the young residents of Dharavi. I'm confident of that, and that has helped. But you'll have to wait a little till we get more data, more details, then we'll have a better picture. But take my word for it, I'm confident that BCG is one of the factors that has made a difference.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very, very enlightening chat or a discussion webinar on this issue of COVID-19. I'm sure our students and our faculty members who have joined us must have seen their concerns addressed to as far as examination is concerned. As far as admission to foreign universities are concerned, that you have very well illustrated in your interventions that the situation all around the world is same, and foreign universities are already in touch with the students who have taken, who have been granted admission into that thing. So they will wait for them. There is nothing to worry as well as that is concerned. Well, I'm very happy the way you have taken the question on teaching. I also stand corrected that there's nothing called online teaching or classroom teaching. Teaching is teaching, and you have to every day equip yourself with the new methodology, new pedagogic techniques to be updated. And I'm really grateful to you for having touched upon this issue of that during these times. We all, whether we are faculty, whether we are teachers, whether we are students, must utilize our time in enriching our skills, the skills that we have, enhancing or acquiring new skills which may, in the long run, serve us in taking care of our life, our jobs, our profession, etc. The take on economy also, you have very rightly said, government will definitely come out with stimulus and all to take care of MSEMs, large industries, migrants. Definitely, once the situation normalizes, will come back. In the end, thank you very much, sir. And I'm now handing over the mic to Dr. Sunita Karesta for the interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you, sir. Absolutely delighted. You can't imagine the congratulatory and positive messages we are getting, both from students and faculty. I'm going to request Dr. Alka Marwa to continue with the proceedings.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kaistha. It has been a very enlightening and motivating session. Thank you, Professor Singh, for infusing us with positivity through your profound wisdom and knowledge. I'm sure everyone, including me, who has listened to you today, will take heart and not give in to despair, not just in relation to current scenario, but also life in general. Now I invite Dr. Vibha Mathur, Senior Faculty, Department of Commerce, T.S.N. Mary College, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
It has been rightly said that a teacher takes a hand, opens a mind, and touches a heart. And we have amidst us someone who exemplifies all the above qualities. It is an absolute honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks to our most distinguished guest, Padma Shri Professor Dinesh Singh. Sir, as we all know, has been the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Delhi and is a renowned academician. Professor Dinesh Singh has provided invaluable suggestions to the students who are gripped by fear and uncertainty as a consequence of the outbreak of COVID-19 regarding their career, future, jobs, exams, and many other issues. I'm confident that our students feel more motivated and de-stressed after attending the session this morning. We would like to thank Professor Dinesh Singh for sparing his invaluable time and accepting our invitation to address the faculty and students. And sir, you have very rightly said that the deaths in our country are much more due to the non-virus factors vis-a-vis the virus factor. And this has given us, all of us, I'm sure, a big ray of hope. You've also talked about the vaccines being designed and built at Oxford University. So that is also very, very positive. And all of us, in fact, globally, people need not fear the COVID as much as they're fearing now. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Thank you. I would also like to thank now Dr. Dinesh Adlakha for moderating the session this morning. He steered the discussion well and elicited great response from our esteemed speaker. Thank you, Dr. Adlakha, for accepting our invitation to be the moderator. Our principal, Sister Rosalie, has encouraged and motivated us in our endeavor. Without her prayers and blessings, the webinar would not have been possible. We thank you, Sister, for your support. Dr. Alka Malwa, convener of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, and Dr. Anita Mutwani, coordinator of the webinar, have been very gracious in offering a platform and have inspired us to organize the webinar today. We highly appreciate your vote of confidence in us. The teacher in charge of the Department of Commerce, Dr. Sunita Kayasta, is a very determined and a hardworking person and possesses immense leadership qualities. We thank her for her guidance and suggestions. Dr. Rekha Dayal, convener of the webinar, stood rock solid behind us. Ma'am, with her positive outlook, has an expertise in crisis management. She provided an unconditional support to each one of us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for just being there. Our energetic and enthusiastic young teachers have worked very hard to make the webinar a huge success. The technical team, led by Ms. Charu Sareen, along with Mr. Subhash and Mr. Gaurav, have done a very commendable job. Ms. Monica Chhabra and Ms. Saloni Arora looked after the public relations and logistics very meticulously. Dr. Ruhi Kakkar, Priyanka, Ms. Kashni, Ms. Gurpreet, Ms. Brinda, and Ms. Trisha have all worked together to ensure the smooth sail of the session today. We are grateful to every member of the webinar team of Jesus and Mary College for their suggestions and constant support. Our student leaders, Arpita Chawla, President of the Commerce Association, Shubhangi Agarwal, the organizing head, Hiran Chawla, the Vice President, and Fiza Rizvi, the Treasurer, along with their team members, have worked tirelessly and relentlessly to ensure the success of the program today. We thank you and bless you all, girls. Last but not the least, the audience. You all have been not only patient listeners, but have shown very keen interest and raised some very relevant issues. So let me share, I was looking at the chat box nonstop, and we've been getting congratulatory messages about the seminar, of course, about you and everyone. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart. And personally speaking, sir, it is always a delight to listen to you. You are a wonderful orator, and I am sure the whole world is aware of that. We thank the audience for participating in the webinar today. Once again, Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.